Morning to the bros in the studio as we get ready to unpack a day that, by all accounts, is wrought with uh, sadness, fear, anger, division, denial. You put any adjective out there and it will frame the conversations that are going to follow this morning, not only on my show but on talk outlets across the nation. Let me say good morning first of all to the brothers in the studio. What's happening, Mr. Rideout? How you doing this morning, sir?
Good morning, Michelle. I'm doing well.
Good, fam. And what's up, Debo? How you doing this morning?
Michelle, I would not allow you to have a day that wasn't filled with some foolishness. So, therefore, I am ecstatic, totally elated over the fact that you even spoke to me this morning. Uh, because, there are times when, you don't. And, and certainly coming to me second does not offend me. I know that you always go to ride out first. I mean, he always goes first. You never come to me first. So again, I appreciate the fact that you were even willing to speak with one such as myself. Tired this morning, and you didn't ask at that part.
I did not. I didn't.
But
No.
we had a really big show last night down at St. Anne's. The band Love, Peace, and Soul. All 50 pieces were there of my band, and we just had a
pieces.
well, yeah, we've up the band again.
So you mean to tell me love, peace, and soul was there?
All of them. But no, I had a good time. I want to thank all the folks that came out and hung out in St. Anne's park area, if you will. Just had a good time, man. But other than that, I'm fine.
Other than that, well, all right then. Well, thank you for not letting me start off without a smile.
Some foolishness, yes.
I appreciate it. I do.
The listeners would be very disappointed if they hadn't been able to partake of that.
Yeah,
See, I was trying not to.
I know you did.
Yeah,
you respected the
Yeah, I was
flow.
trying.
Some people just don't.
Yeah,
I tell people all the time, read the room.
yeah.
Yeah, I read it and I wasn't feeling it. Y'all all
So he can't
read the room.
What y'all
act
depressed
accordingly.
about? What y'all depressed about?
Well, the sun ain't shining.
Well,
And it's not about being depressed.
It's fun.
y'all just all somber.
You know what? Let me move past this. I'm already sick of him.
See, I was trying to be good at
And
least
you
one
were.
day out of
You
the
were.
week.
You know what?
Well, compliment
Bring
me then
your
for being
guests.
good.
Now
Bring your
he
guests
wants you
to
to
the class.
compliment.
Yeah. Make me feel like something, woman.
Compliment
Compliment me.
Bring your desk out the hall
Right.
to the classroom. Pick it up.
You see, at least one day out of the
Darren,
week.
go help Jermaine move
What
that
did
desk
you
back into
just
the
call me?
classroom.
What did you just call me?
Darren.
Oh boy. Okay.
Darren,
Okay.
go help.
No
Go
shots
help.
fired here. No
Go
shots
help
fired.
him move that desk back into
I'm
the
not going
classroom.
to feed into it.
No, and you know what? You've done your share. You've done your bit this morning. You've acted,
Accordingly.
no.
See, but you still didn't compliment me, though,
You just-
Chef.
Hey, bro.
Come on now.
You
I mean,
have
I'm
to-
trying to please you.
You will have to wait to keep.
You trying to please her?
You gonna have
This is family radio.
I'm trying to. Oh, see, there you go. There
You
you
gonna
go.
have to wait to keep show for the couch. I don't have one available for you. But in spite of Debo and his moments, many people this morning, some folks not until you see the local news stations do you remember that today is 9/11. By all accounts, one of the most consequential days in terms of violence on American soil um, in our lifetimes. The attack were four coordinated suicide attacks were, ultimately coordinated by Al Qaeda against the United States in 2001. We are looking at the 24th anniversary of this occasion of these terror attacks. And without fail, you cannot say 9/11. And people that are of that age that understand, because we have children and we have some adults who were not born during this period. Jermaine was just saying, my
Mhm.
son was 1 day old when 9/11 happened. So, other
Yeah.
than what you've seen in a textbook, you know, a news broadcast, the anniversary reel that ran, there are young people that have no idea that, I remember when we were in this phase when there were children in this country that had only known a black president. Those kids that were born in '09,
Mhm.
and then did 8 years with Obama, they only knew a black president of the United States.
Wow.
And like later, it was like, oh wait, it's been white boys that's been presidents. Like, what's going on? So,
Michelle, do you think we still in some ways are being impacted by the happenings, if you will, of that date in particular?
I mean, like I said, for the people who remember, the people who were impacted, it was one of the first, because we will get into political skirmishes, ideological wars, supporting other people in their, wars, but we never have had to do it on American soil. Like the drama has never been brought to American soil. We get to go tear up other folks' countries and, fight.
And then we turn around and help rebuild it. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's it. Like every time I look at what's happening in Gaza, and I think about these, the buildings, the infrastructure, those images of these people's apartment buildings and stuff being bombed out, all this concrete and debris. Like 9/11 is the closest thing that as Americans we've ever seen or experienced up front, anything like that. And so for the people who remember it, it's something you don't ever want to see again.
True.
When I say, and then to know that those buildings were able to come down so quickly because of blanking American greed.
Yeah,
that's the one thing that just never.
There was something about the steel wasn't something.
I mean, if you ask me, and I'm gonna be honest, if you ever saw a building being
demolished or imploded,
you'll see how the building fall. It falls a certain way, and it falls a certain way every time when it's demolished. The way that building fell, it felt like that building was demolished.
I mean, but the reality, and one of the things that they've since talked about, is that one of the contractors who, like they believe were connected to the mob in New York, used subpar materials in building the frame. And and I'll go back and pull the exact data where they now have been able to go back, because it blew engineers away, folks that do that for a living, that building was able to fall so quickly and so completely.
But they did say something to the extent of airplane fuel.
Yeah, but
burning a much hotter heat.
But because we didn't have the type of heat retardant materials that we needed, it burned way quicker than it should have burned. And I should have had it pulled up. Because of greed. They didn't want to spend, they was looking for ways to skim off money, skim off profit on the project. And so that's one thing, and you never think about that one day this is going to come to light, and they actually identify the individual who was responsible for that aspect of the project.
Was he alive? Was he currently alive at that point in time?
Hang on, let me see.
I guess my question initially, while you're looking that up, was like when you look at how TSA functions and all of the different hoops that you jump through now that were not in place during 9/11, I think it's certainly we still see the impacts of that day.
I mean, it was funny though, because I know some, under the Trump administration, they had been talking about rolling back some of the things you have to do when you go to the airport. But it seems like you trade off one thing for another.
I still can't see hijacking a plane with a box cutter.
Yeah, ain't no way in the world.
Ain't
no way.
Well, I think that, but on the one plane in DC, or Pentagon.
Pentagon, yeah.
When the guys jumped up and they was like, we fighting back. They're able to do that. But I think people can be so scared and in that moment. And it's it's a small plane. It's a small space. And so people are so probably in fear and shock that, and then you got to look at the makeup of the plane. How many, what the travelers demographics were these older people, younger people, how many women versus how many men, all of those things factor into what that crowd's response is going to be. And I know, some of these you were able to go back and like on the one plane where the whole plane goes down, we lose all these people. A lot of families, children.
But now that's the one that was on its way to the Pentagon, correct?
That was near the Pentagon area that went down. And that's the one where, they got the image and information about the guys, like, nah, we getting ready to fight. And they say, let's roll. They came up with a attack plan to keep that plane from doing damage and going into any government buildings or whatever the plan was of those hijackers. But it literally is I think about like the sisters it was a black woman just on the plane and this white woman acting a whole fool on the plane. And the stewardesses couldn't get it under control to the point that it got physical. And
I remember this story.
Yeah, and the sister had to get up out her seat. Like,
tell somebody, grandmama. Didn't I tell you such a?
Had her pinned down on the floor.
I'm not going to tell you again.
So, and I always say, we always like to think about what we would do in those situations until confronted with those situations.
Yeah, you don't know.
But one of the things that I thought about was that the hate for this country or for some of the things that we have done that precipitated a 9/11. I thought about our interaction with the rest of the world and have we done any better over the years? And there have been ebbs and flows in which it looks like we've tried to be a better world citizen. And then under this administration, we roll back many of those efforts and we piss more people off and we, disrespect our allies and we bully, people that we don't agree with. Or, America is a jerk right now in terms of the way this administration treats other people. The way you are ignorant and condescending talking to an African leader about his ability to speak English. But the real idiot and dummy in the room is the American president who does not know that English is the main language in the country that the man is from. Our allies laughing, both in the first term. They're not laughing in this term because they know the dangerousness of this individual that's leading this country. But Donald Trump and this administration and the Republicans that support his ignorance have made us less safe. When you start to see this show of, I'm not going to say force, but giving people a window into the interactions between the China's president, Vladimir Putin, we're going to have a 3-man squad standing up here. And you like, wait a minute, because people are looking to take us out. Not everybody agrees with our idea of a democratic government. And the two superpowers that were standing there and the third, trying to be a superpower, we represent a threat to their countries and their way of life. So that was the thing that I kept thinking about this morning as I was moving around is, are we safer today than we were 24 years ago? I don't feel like we are. And think about all the advancements that people have made in 24 years. These battles can be fought very differently. I think on some level, people wanted us to feel the pain. No, y'all, some of y'all people need to die. We need to come on, your property. We need to come in your house and whoop your behind in your own house to help you understand how much disdain we have for you or for the way you do business. Because, sometimes people will pull up and be like, no, we need to send a message. But I don't have to come across the ocean anymore. I don't have to train, hijackers to come in, suicide pilots to take out American citizens. I can take your whole infrastructure, technological infrastructure hostage. I can shut down your water systems. I can mess up your traffic patterns. I can mess up your banking industries. I can mess with your money. There are all kinds of ways now to create cyber attacks that it can have even more detriment than actually shedding blood on American soil. So as people are thinking about 9/11, and like I said, there is not a single person that is of age that remembers when those newscasts started rolling and broadcasting that can't tell me where they were, who they were with, what they were doing, and how they felt in that moment. So I just, we have to make sure that we mention it here on the station, acknowledge that this is a somber day for our nation in relationship to 9/11 and what that means. Let me go to the phone line. We got a caller. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Oh, good morning, Miss Michelle Bryant.
Hey, JT, how you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing quite well. As always, thank you so very much for asking me that. And how are you?
I'm good. No complaints this morning.
Okay. And good morning to those outstanding gentlemen you have there in the house with you today. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning,
Good morning, JT.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Michelle, you had mentioned about 9/11 25 years ago. You know what? When I think about it, I say, oh, man, has it been that long ago?
24,
like
JT.
24 years, I'm sorry.
No, you
24 years ago. Oh, man, I thought, yeah, I remember I was a manager for Radio Shack at that time, and I got sick and tired of being a manager for Radio Shack, and I went to work for Arnie Von Slater in Miami Falls selling new and used cars. Because I used to do, I'm one of those people that used to, back then you can bounce around and find jobs, when you wanted to, but now it's different. I appreciate that. But speaking, Michelle, of that, when you said, which is safer now than it was then, oh, no. Matter of fact, it's worse now under this Nazi regime. And I guess I got some breaking news for you, Michelle. One of Donald Trump's young advocates by the name of Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. Donald Trump is running around like a chicken with his head cut off now. The Republicans, no, Donald Trump. The Democrats had something to do with that. Barack Obama had something to do with this Charlie Kirk being shot and killed, a young white conservative person that advocated for Donald Trump around the country. So yeah, that's some breaking news. I just saw that on Channel 12 National News this morning about this young man, white man by the name of Charlie Kirk being shot and killed. Donald Trump, conservative activist, and only thing I'm saying right now, it's not. Yeah, it's worse. I would say it's worse. And those Nazi Republicans are trying to start a civil war. They're scared about losing power. We all know that. Okay, been knowing that for a long time. So yeah, it's getting worse until I hope in 2026 when we go out to vote, we actually do that and try to take the power out the hands of the Republicans and put Donald Trump in check. If anything, just recall this, but yeah, it's not any better, and it's getting worse. And I did want to mention that breaking news about one of his young white activists by the name of Charlie Kirk being shot and killed. Anyway, all right, but thank you, Michelle, for taking my call, and everybody have a good day.
All right, thank you, JT. I'm actually, obviously, for folks that follow the news, planning to discuss the Charlie Kirk shooting, which happened on yesterday. Many of us, watched in real time as CNN and a number of outlets broke into coverage and talked about the fact that Kirk, who was at a college campus in Iowa, had been shot and taken to the hospital where he eventually ended up passing away at the hospital. We saw Donald Trump release his statement on yesterday. In fact, most people learned that Kirk had died through a post that Donald Trump did on his social media platform. And then to watch the ensuing conversations about it. And also that there have been some people that have been fired from their jobs because of the way by which they have discussed Kirk's, the motivations or the things potentially that had led to the shooting. We have seen the governor in the state say that um, it was a political shooting, and it has just been and I said Iowa, I meant to say Utah. My bad. But it has been a lot of things that have been said, a lot of rhetoric that is out there. So we're going to deal with that. Let me take a quick break though, and we'll come back. There are also people that may be, looking at the fact that there was another school shooting on yesterday. We are into possibly the first month of school, depending on if you go to an early school or a school that starts after Labor Day. We already have had another school shooting. And ironically, Charlie Kirk, when he was shot, was actually answering a question from someone in attendance at his rally about school shootings. And they said, because as people have tried to attack the transgender community about the shooting that most recently had occurred. He was asked the question, so what do you think about, or do you know how many numbers of transgender people have committed school shootings? And he was like, basically kind of flipping, one is too many or something like that. And the person said five. And so they said, do you know how many shootings, have occurred basically in the US? And he said, oh, aside from gang shootings. And then that's when he is actually struck with the bullet himself that ultimately was fatal. So we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. So there are a lot of you, again, if you listen to talk radio, the likelihood is great that you are somebody that avidly follows the news. You got MSNBC on, CNN, Fox, the BBC, NPR, WPR. You somebody that probably likes to stay on top of information. But there are some people that don't know a ton about Charlie Kirk and understand why this is having such a dramatic effect nationwide in response to his death and the coverage that it is receiving. But the one thing that I will tell people just by way of quick information, Charlie Kirk, he was only 31 when he was killed on yesterday. A husband, father of, I think people have said 2 children. But Charlie Kirk, at the age of 18, seemed so appalled at the election of Barack Obama in 2012 that he began a mission to organize students to, the way it technically was described, promote the principles of fiscal responsibility, free markets, and limited governments. And he created Turning Point USA. Okay. On its face, it was about spreading conservatism to young people, particularly targeted on college campuses, even though Kirk had made the decision not to go to college himself because he wanted to be able to, get on these campuses, start to get rid of liberal leaning ideology, to challenge it wherever it was presented, and to be able to convert more people to being conservatives. And without doubt, he becomes immensely popular, hugely popular among a white young demographic, in terms of spurring an interest in the Republican Party, conservative ideology. He is a key factor in voter turnout and the get out the vote effort in Trump's reelection most recently, and is credited with helping to register tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands perhaps, of new voters that were flipping states like Arizona for Donald Trump. Okay. So he is somebody that has traveled around with Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., to Greenland, as they were talking about, we gonna take over Greenland kind of mess. But Charlie is the son of an architect who grew, and I'm taking this from the BBC, who grew up in the well-to-do Chicago suburb of Prospect Heights. He attended a community college near Chicago before dropping out to devote himself to political activism. He also applied unsuccessfully to West Point, the elite U.S. military academy, and often referred tongue-in-cheek to his lack of a college degree when engaging in debates with students and academics on a variety of topics. He was an avid public speaker, touring the country, speaking at Republican events, many popular with members of the ultra-conservative Tea Party movement. Remember that. Again, a lot of this is in response to a Black man being elected president. And many of these people mentally just could not take it. He addressed Oxford Union earlier this year and back in 2020, wrote a bestseller book, The MAGA Doctrine, which was a reference to, Donald Trump's Make America Great campaign. And he is somebody that literally said some of the most hateful and racially inflammatory, racially ignorant things that you have heard uttered from people's mouths in recent memory. One of the things that Charlie Kirk said that I always, I never, and if you go back and listen to my shows, I never talked about Charlie Kirk. Sometimes, how they talk about, I'm not going to give something air. Charlie Kirk said, and I quote, "Black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal, STEAL, steal a white person's slot." Does not begin to cover the range of ignorance that came out of this young man's mouth on a regular basis. But as I listened this morning to people talk about what they believe, because right now the shooter has not been apprehended, has been on the run. We're now 17 hours or so into the shooting time frame. They had 2 different suspects in custody, have since had to release both. Somebody ought to tell Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, you two, once again, not ready for prime time. You are getting out in front of the law enforcement officers on the ground. Everybody wants to be the first person to break the story, give the information. And literally, Kash Patel is being contradicted in saying we have the suspect in custody at the very moment that the press conference is going on. The first guy that's in custody is not the shooter. And they know he's not the shooter. He's arrested because they said he obstructed the police, whatever that means. And the second person, they figure out like, no, this person is not the shooter. So the shooter is not in custody. But because you got a lot of people who are more about, the clicks, and the clicks meaning, who's going to come see my post first. My name is out there. I'm connected. My notoriety. You're doing stuff for all the wrong reasons. I'm trying to hurry up and appease somebody. Like, you said the wrong thing. And Jermaine even talked about, did you look at the press conference? You could see the frustration in the local law enforcement faces who were on the ground dealing with the situation. FBI, stop talking, because you giving misinformation. But as people begin to unpack what happened, people right now are left to their own judgments about what was the motivation. Barack Obama, always, an example of responsibility, says, hey, we don't know why this shooter did what he did. I'm paraphrasing, but this was a despicable act of violence. That's responsible. That's leadership. And Barack Obama knew Charlie Kirk didn't have nothing for him. Like, you are born out of being pissed off that Barack Obama gets elected to be president. You rise up in part because of your disdain that this black man got elected president of the United States. And yet Barack Obama finds the ability to say, I send my condolences to this man's wife and children and to his family. He shouldn't have died like this. He, paraphrasing, but this is what he does. Joe Biden does the same thing. The individual that leads this country at this moment is able to read from the written prepared statement and say something that sounds somewhat responsible as the president, and then quickly does what he does, devolve into political rhetoric and ignorance. But I'm going to tell y'all, the Republicans that are on TV and doing these interviews and, you know, decrying violence and, you know, we're under attack and people don't like us because we conservative and it's not safe to be a conservative in America. Y'all can miss me with y'all nonsense because we have had political shootings since the beginning of time in this country and political violence since the beginning of time in this country. We have had Democratically, politically leaning legislators killed, judges killed, their family members have been killed, all kinds of stuff has happened. And I'm listening to far too many Republicans, you know, they don't want to give credence to the fact that, you know, Gabby Gifford and the Minnesota legislators and other people have been killed. And, oh, you know, people don't like us and they don't like what we say. But you have a person at the top of your ticket who berates people for sport. He is the ugliest behaving individual overtly that we have ever had in the White House. It means nothing to demean, disrespect, degrade everyday people that he encounters just because he woke up and it's Tuesday. And they see it, they laugh at it, they cheer it, they uplift it, they make it a part of their platform, and now in the way they behave. And I'm going to tell you something. As long as I have been in my community, there are certain things that govern the way I behave and certain things that my family made sure I understood. Talking crazy can get you crazy results. When you have these platforms, when you have people that hang on your every word, that listen to what you say, that internalize that, you can motivate and inspire people to do good, or you can motivate and inspire people to do wrong. And when you get, as I say all the time, behind these mics, on your social platforms, you have a responsibility to understand the impact of your words. Now, clearly the people over at MSNBC don't appreciate what I just said because they fired a longtime contributor, Matthew Dowd, because they said he suggested that hateful rhetoric from Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk led to his own assassination. And they fired him. Just like they fired Joy. I want y'all to pay attention because I'm listening to Al Sharpton constantly push, you know, watching the show and his numbers and his ratings and what's going on. And I believe that Al Sharpton's show is going to be gone, possibly from MSNBC. They are weeding out people that are overtly vocal about this administration, overtly vocal about Donald Trump, because these people are running scared. Regulatory wise, you know, the ability not to get access to the White House, press credentials being cut off. And so they are literally toning down the rhetoric or what journalists, reporters, hosts can say on some of these shows. And whether there's a memo that went out that said fall back or just the firings that we have seen. So we're going to let you see through example. Don't say certain things. Matthew Dowd gets fired. But I don't think that Matthew Dowd said anything that A, was illegal, that B, should have been deemed offensive, because there are many people that believe that your words can cause you heat. Think about how we move around in these streets and these communities. You talk reckless to people, you say reckless stuff, you get reckless responses sometimes. And so it was crazy to watch Dowd, who is a Democrat but was formerly a Republican and an independent. He's been all three. But he definitely is somebody that has went in on the party since the Trump takeover. You get fired. So I see y'all callers. I'm coming. But let me be clear. If I don't understand a whole lot about sitting at this studio and this station, I know my words carry weight. I know I have the ability to impact people's mood, people's feelings, people's beliefs, and people's responses, whether it's for good or for bad. And while I laugh and play behind this mic, I am never not conscious of the fact that words have consequences. Words can move people to action. Words can get you killed. I understand that. And all these people acting like they don't, particularly on the Republican side of this whole thing, y'all need to stop. Because as I've said many times before, in our homes, if you was raised by people of a certain ilk, they talk to you about being respectful when you engage people, even when you disagreed with them. And if you didn't like them, but you still show decorum and respect, because that brings the temperature down. The situation that went on the NFL field when everybody was ready to go out. What was one player's name who actually spit on the dude? Jalen? Yeah, Jalen Carter. But then when the video gets played and we find out that the other quarterback spit in his direction, and even though that quarterback is trying to act like, well, I wasn't really spitting at dude, I just spit. The perception that you spit at me, you don't know how people going to respond back because it's guttural. And so to listen to a Republican legislator was asked by a CNN host this morning, so what can you do differently? This man twisted himself in knots to avoid personal responsibility for the tone and rhetoric in American politics today. Well, you know, the Democrats did this and Democrats did that, and they call us evil and racist and this and this. Hey, player, that's not the question that I asked you. What can you do to bring this down? Well, I tried to hold a town hall. All they wanted to do was holler and yell. So see, and you're not listening. Because what people are trying to guide y'all to say is that you can lead by example. That's what they're trying to guide you all to say. Sometimes it's painful to hear it because they can't seem to get you on the street to utter the words, but they're trying to get you to lead by example. You got legislators today that outwardly, publicly, in a press conference, in earshot of the public, say some of the most vile and disgusting things about their colleagues, about the opposing party. It happens all the time. I have used rhetoric that has said that I believe that, you know, Donald Trump is just one of the most racist people I've ever seen in this role as a president outwardly. Because we've had other races. It just wasn't like out there. The sheet was like, you know, on the Oval desk while he writing out, you know, signing resolutions. And so I understand even what I say and when I say it. And I'm willing to admit my part in saying those things. So I'm going to go to the phone line. I want to definitely hear from you all because this is something that impacts people. And there are folks who are like, no one should be celebrating that this young man died. I agree with that. But if you don't realize that some of the rhetoric of this young man put other people in harm's way, it was rhetoric that caused some person that was mentally ill or deranged or whatever to go into a pizza location while Hillary Clinton was running for office and try to shoot up the location, talking about there was child sex trafficking going on in the bottom of this pizza location. It is rhetoric. You know, when Donald Trump and this is the one thing, and Carlos, I know I'm coming. But, you know, yesterday I was talking about how black men, you know, here we go again, Willie Hortons. Our brothers are being used as the epitome of violence, and they got our photos out. You got the unfortunate stabbing of the woman on the transit system in New York. You got the brother that went to go, you know, ask somebody use the electricity so he could charge his phone or whatever. He ends up killing the couple and burning their house. You know, we showing these black men, and I'm like, where the white boy poster at? You know, because see, I'm not gonna say it delicately for you. I'm not gonna do that because, you know, I watch black commentators, you know, the other hue, the others, the non-black people, the lighter, you know, the lighter people, the folks without melanin. I ain't got time for all them damn, you know, twists and turns and jumping through hoops. Y'all know who we talking about. We talking about white people. So where's the poster with the white people that have killed all the white people? Where they at? Because, you know, oh, the black on black crime and the violence and the la, la, la. Who white people kill? They kill white people. Where that poster at? The school shooter poster? Where that poster at? See, that's the thing, and why the media pisses me off and becomes complicit in the depiction of us as a people. But we're not going to get that all white men are violent if the shooter for Charlie Kirk was a white man. We're not going to get that all white men are violent if the shooter in Colorado was a white, you know, male. We're not going to get that. We ain't going to get that memo. We're not going to get that poster. So that's why I tell y'all, be careful how you as black people talk about crime, talk about public safety in our community, because people take our words and use them against us, and their words never materialize. But the data, Charlie Kirk, in his smug nonsense, when asked about shooters yesterday, oh, the gang people. Charlie, it ain't no gang members shooting up high schools, bruh. It's not gang members, you know, doing these political assassinations and political shootings that we're seeing. Those are not gang members. A gang member didn't shoot at Donald Trump. It wasn't a gang member that broke into the White House when Barack Obama was in office. But see, these are the stories and the pictures that we tell, and the paint and the pictures that we paint. And the media plays right into it. You keep showing these two black men. Put up the damn poster of all the white people that's out here killing folks. If we're going to talk about violence in this country, this is a violent country. It was founded in violence. Violence has been used to maintain power. And all these people, this is not who we are. You a damn lie. This is exactly who we are. This is exactly who we are. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello? Yes.
Yeah, I've been listening to this.
Hang on, you kind of low. Are you on speaker?
Yeah, let me turn it up. Let me get out the way. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I've been following this and listening to it and looking at it, and we have to be careful on how. I mean, the boy ain't even froze yet. So, and you have to realize something about the young man. He was really a motivational preacher speaker, one of them like little motivational speakers, Christian speakers. Some people might even call him a preacher, and he might have been on his way to doing that with a mega church. I don't know. If he wanted to build one, he could build one. So we have to be careful of that situation. We have to be careful of how we deal with it, because I'm gonna tell you something. There's a guy I know. He was on the east side. His building is sitting over there right now. He owned the building. Just looking at this dude, you would think he was a homeless guy outside. He used to have dreadlocks, and he was a Trump supporter, and he also supported Lena Taylor. He had Lena Taylor on one side of his board, and he had Donald Trump on the other side, because he felt Lena Taylor was the best thing going for the city mayor, and he felt that Donald Trump would be the best thing to turn some of this stuff that's not even rational back rational. I mean, some of this stuff is just so far out that even a crazy person will say, and that ain't supposed to be, but people are doing it. And you know what they did? They killed that brother. And I believe a white man killed him, because when I watched the video time after time, black folk don't ride bikes and move that way. And this dude had overly fat clothes on. He had his mask all banded all up. You couldn't see the skin on him. He was professional. And he shot the brother. And that's an unsolved murder today. Okay? And Vicky McKenna and them came up with $20,000 to start the reward out. I don't know if that little reward is still available, but it was a $20,000 reward. And for a killing like that, $20,000 ain't gonna push them out, push nobody to move on that. And people that do stuff like this need to be put away. That was a brother killed. Okay, right there. His building is right there on right off of Humboldt. It's still there. He owned it. It was his little shop.
I got you, bro. I got you.
Right.
I got you.
And so when I hear this about the preacher, motivational speaker, he only doing what me and you do for our people.
No, because I don't go around telling people that Martin Luther King was an awful person and not a good person, and that he decried the civil rights movement of 1965. He didn't think that it was a good movement. I am not the person that goes around that says that.
Michelle,
no. I am not the person that says that it is worth it to have gun deaths in this country to ensure that we preserve the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. I am not the person, Meech, that goes around, trying to degrade people and say that black women are not intelligent. I'm not that person. I'm not that person. So before we start to describe before we describe him as some faith, because I know he was religious, and he wore his religion on his sleeve, but he used his religion to perpetrate evil. He used his God. I don't know what God he served that allowed him to say some of the most ignorant things in the world. I don't know what God that is he served.
Persuasion. It's called persuasion.
You can call it whatever you want to call it, but it was wrong. And you can dress it up like all the Republicans are doing online, but it was wrong.
What do you think about Gino Jennings?
I'm talking about Charlie Kirk today.
Well,
that's what I'm talking about.
Because you should be careful even talking about it.
I'm not going to be careful. I'm going to say what I want to say the same way Charlie Kirk felt like he could say whatever he want to say. You weren't nowhere telling Charlie Kirk. Did you ever send Charlie Kirk an email saying, hey, you might want to watch how you talk about black women? You might want to watch how you talk about black civil rights leaders? You might want to watch how you talk about all these issues? Did you ever send him a memo? Then don't call me and give me one. Hang up the phone. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Only your black behind can figure out a way to call in here and defend the words and the ugly, hateful rhetoric of this dude. Particularly when I say it was aimed at black people. He starts because of Barack Obama getting elected. Only you. Only you. I feel so sorry for you. And the people that are in your sphere of influence. Charlie Kirk rises because of spreading hateful messaging. And a lot of it in part is spearheaded by his dislike of the fact that Barack Obama got elected to be president of the United States. I say a quote in which he says black women are too stupid to get jobs, and the only way we get them is stealing from white men, like it assumes that all white men are smart. Only you, Meech, can figure out a way to try to defend and uphold and support and give cover to this racist nonsense that came out this man's mouth. Man, I feel so sorry for you, but I even feel sorry for the people that are around you that look to you for guidance. I gotta take a break. I'll be right back.
Back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. Taking a moment to talk about the basically what ends up now being an assassination of Charlie Kirk, high profile conservative activist that was killed on yesterday while he was attending a rally on a college campus. And the exchange that I just had with a regular caller to this show who, espouses a lot of Republican support. Michelle, be careful about how you talk. Michelle, be careful what you say. Invokes the fact that, this guy, was religious and might have even went on to own a super church and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but where was your input to Charlie Kirk to say, hey, you might want to slow down on saying that back in 2023, when Charlie Kirk argued that the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1965 was a huge mistake. He believed it created a permanent bureaucracy to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because for Charlie Kirk, diversity, equity, and inclusion in a country that had been systematically racist and abhorrent to Black people didn't need to do anything to right those wrongs. When Charlie Kirk says, to that point I made about Black women, prominent Black women such as Michelle Obama and Ketanji Brown Jackson lack the brain processing power to understand arguments on policies like affirmative action. So trained lawyers who have done a grand total of 7 years of college, where have you done, I don't know, a semester in a JUCO? So you with no education try to tell trained lawyers, Michelle Obama, who works for one of the best law firms in the country, Ketanji, whose record is stellar, you, little white boy, question the intelligence of these Black women. The same Charlie Kirk who said, if I see a Black pilot, he said this last year, if I see a Black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. The same Charlie Kirk who said he opposed making Juneteenth a federal holiday, claiming the move was an anti-American act and promoted a neo-segregationist view. So slavery didn't promote segregation. Slavery was not American. When people talk about as American as apple pie, you better include the fact that slavery was as American as anything else that has happened in this country. It is how this country in part gets built. On the backs of enslaved people. But we don't want to talk about the ending of slavery because that's anti-America. Charlie, it wasn't the Germans and the Polands and the Chinese that had Black people enslaved. Well, depending on, but like overall. It happened in America. Like, that's part of the problem. And why these people are doing some of the things that they do, because it's hard to look in the mirror and tell the truth about yourself. It's hard to do that. It's hard for white people to explain to their children and grandchildren how their ancestors became a part of such a hideous situation in which you treated human beings like dogs and cattle. In fact, you treated them worse. You don't want to have to put that mirror up and tell the truth about yourself. Charlie Kirk, who said that George Floyd, the murder by the police that set off all these protests, he kept consistently referring to George Floyd as a scumbag. But the white man who puts his knee on a man who is not resisting, who is not fighting, and who is not armed, and puts his hand in his pocket and casually grinds his knee into this man's neck until it cuts off his passageways while this man is begging for help and for his mother. So the white police officer is not the scumbag. George Floyd is the scumbag. I'm wondering where Meech was to call Charlie Kirk when he promoted the false crap in the January 6th, uprising and riots. And later when he got called to Congress, because he talked so much on campus, he got so much to say everywhere else, but then Congress called him, January 6th riot, committee, we going to talk about this to an extent. Well, not the committee, but we're going to talk about this. And now I'm pleading the Fifth Amendment. I don't have nothing to say. But you got something to say all the other times. Charlie Kirk, who run around getting white people amped up, telling them they trying to replace y'all. The great replacement theory. Using all kinds of ignorance to say that it's a conspiracy. White people are going to be displaced, and even talking about the Jewish people that Donald Trump claimed he loves so much and is trying to protect on these college campuses when it's really just a shield to do your racist bidding. All of the bigoted and awful things he said about Muslim people, Muslim immigrants, actually calling for televised executions of people. Like what happened to him? He had no problem with that happening to other people in public. And even said, and children should watch. So while no, I don't believe anybody had the right to be judge, jury, and executioner, Charlie Kirk had broken no laws. He is free in this country to say whatever he wants to say. That's a part of the American ideal. That's a part of what the founders intended, except they didn't mean that for black people, because we wasn't a part of that. We had to fight for that. We had to go back and reclaim that or to get that. But I heard Tremaine Lee say yesterday when he was on Karen Hunter's show on Sirius XM or Urban View, and he said, I'm not going to speak ill of the dead. And I just smiled. Because whatever I say about you while you alive, I'm damn sure going to say about you in your death. I'm not coming to the church to stand there and, he was such a good, I'm not doing that. I'm not that chick. If you was a hot mess in life, you're going to be a hot mess in death. Oh, the body ain't even cold. That ain't got nothing to do with the price of tea in China. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. I'm not the person that's going to come to the funeral and stand up and turn you into a martyr. Not going to do that. If you were divisive in life, why would I not say that after you die? I'm just not, I've never been that person. I'm not ever going to be that person. And so, callers, I'm coming to you. But when I tell you that a lot of this is people who have allowed it to fester and they don't want to be honest about it. And other people have felt like we got to fight fire with fire. And so then, and I told people, and I've had this conversation too. I'm going to say this out loud. The number of people that have said to me, never in the history of my life have I thought about somebody being assassinated and that assassination would not bother me. But they weren't talking about Charlie Kirk. They're talking about Donald Trump. When those attempts happened on his life. And, I just kind of looked at people and they said, that's how hopeless I feel about the direction of this country. And then ironically, I'm listening to the news last night, and there were people who were saying that people can get to such a point that they feel that it is so hopeless that things will not change, that it is steady declining, and they don't know what else to do. So they resort to violence. I'm not a proponent of violence. I talk real crazy and I will defend myself. And if you run up on me, I'm going to fight you back. But I'm never going to pick that fight. I'm never swinging first. I'm never going to be the person who brings the mob to try to harm you. And I'm not going to say things to put you in harm's way. Like Donald Trump getting rid of Kamala Harris's Secret Service detail, nothing but small pettiness. And you know what? Gleefully putting that woman in harm's way. I would never do that. But if you waiting on me to talk this morning with a degree of reverence, I have reverence for human life. But I understand that this public platform is not to be taken lightly. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
That's how you understand things, brother.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
I'm here. You know, I think about Dr. Martin Luther King, Dr. King, and he was a true martyr for the people. It doesn't matter what color, race you were. And I hate to see that the things that this administration is standing up for, and there's no way on this side of heaven that this man is a martyr. And matter of fact, even the devil is a religious guy. So with this last caller that speaking about how religious this guy is, and he could have had a mega church of hate. Trump is a mega church of hate. So we don't need any more brick and mortars of mess out here. We need the truth. And the administration right now, I promise you, it's not for the people. It's for themselves, their color, the white people. It's not for, you know, and that's what America's been for. I'm going to say it like this here, and I'm going to let it go. America has never been great for the black people, but it's been blessed because of the black people. We built this on our backs with a blank check, with nothing in the account, and never going to get any pay for it because we can't come together as a people. Because like that last caller, people like that will stop us from getting any kind of reparations. Because you said slavery wasn't real. Have a great one. God bless you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the call. Got another caller on the line. Let's get them in. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle. Good morning. Do you think now with Kirk guy and they will make tougher gun laws?
No.
Senator Eric Schmidt can say what he says. Kirk can say what he says, but they fired Matthew Dowd from MSNBC.
Absolutely.
Make it make sense.
Yep.
Homecoming, are we still rolling down next month with all this? I mean, the temperature is so hot in the country now.
Yeah,
they just raided a plant down in Georgia. It's like,
you know what? And thank you for the questions and the comments. There's a lot that doesn't make sense right now. And that trip, we are looking at doing it differently. So I'll make sure I keep you abreast and, we let you know what's happening because we're looking at doing certain things differently. I was telling people it's at the same time that Congressional Black Caucus is happening. And I know that this is going to be probably one of the most consequential meetings of the Congressional Black Caucus at their annual conference than we've ever had before. And now I also, because of a class that I picked up in school, I actually have an in-person class that, during one of those days that we were going to be gone. So I'll get to you and let you know what we're doing. And thank you though for the questions because we see the double standards. We see, how all of this can blow up and turn into a problem. So, it is one of those things that again, it's a responsibility. I have frequently used the word, and other people have used it to talk about how some people talk and just say it's reckless. It's reckless. It's reckless. We have another caller, Jermaine. Let me get them in. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, good morning, Monsieur. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
All right. I get disturbed. Why? I don't know if it caused a problem. Why did you even give Meech a platform to talk on? Because anything he talk about is going to be something ignorant and stupid. And I believe the man must be getting paid, because I can't believe some of the things this man said. He sounds like the guy that was on the plantation and told the white man, "We sick, boss." You know, he's a trip. The other day he made a statement why he liked Trump, because Trump speaks out and this, that, and other. I can't believe that this man goes around and want to be a pillar in our community and supporting all this hate that is going on or whatever. I mean, he had a show with you guys. It didn't succeed. And then he had this thing where he tries to time his call in to be the last word, like he's wrapping the show up or something. I just can't believe that this man really believes in what he's saying, unless he's getting paid for it. So I wouldn't even give him a platform. I don't know if he can sue you or whatever for that, but I wouldn't even get a man a platform, because all he preaching is stupid stuff, man. I don't have no respect for him, really, to even call in with the stuff that he calls in with. Then he tries to compare your comments. Like I said, I've been listening to you for a long time. I've never heard you say anything that support hate, even against, I mean, you name against our enemies, Trump and different politicians. You never said anything hateful. So I don't know what he's talking about. And then he tries to take over the conversation. It's just crazy. So, and with this guy, I never heard of him until now. You know, the guy, whatever. But then again, if he had a mega church, it'd probably be a mega church of white folks that hate black folks or whatever. And you know, my mom used to say, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but black people like roaches. You ain't gonna get rid of us. You know, we you know, you can't. We everywhere. It's even in the animal world. It's black cats, black squirrels, black. There's black people everywhere. But black is in some of everything all over the world. So, you know, I don't know what to say, but it's just frustrating to hear this guy call in and know he's going to say something ignorant and want people to listen to him. You know, and then again, if something break out, does he get a pass with the white folks? Like, does he put a special mark on the door or something that says, "I, the black man that supports y'all"? I mean, would he get a free ride or something? You know, I wonder about this. You know, it sounds crazy, but I really wonder, this man getting paid to call in or do the things that he's doing, the things he said. And then I believe he even hates himself. The man probably walk around with white flour on his face or something just to pretend he a white man or something. The man think like himself. He's black as any of us. What credit would they give him? You see what they did to Clark when he thought he could play the part, man. I don't know. I'm rambling on, but to me, this man doesn't deserve a platform. Let him call them white stations and say the things that he say, because then they use him as a poster boy for this is how black people think, and no matter what we do to them, this is kind of response we'll get. You know, that's the way I look at him. You know, so thanks for letting me rant about that situation.
No, thank you. I appreciate the call. You know, and the one thing I will just say, and I was selling this to a guy who I had on the show recently. I don't screen calls. As a general rule at this station, we don't screen calls. Sometimes we can tell, you know, via caller ID who's calling or have a good idea. You know, Jermaine can hear the voice right away when certain people call in, and he can look up and let me know, you know, it's your boy or it's so and so and so. But I believe in people's freedom to say what they think and what they believe, because there are things that I say that can be highly unpopular and people wouldn't want to hear from me. And I would hope that I'm not shut out, you know, because I have something to say that you don't agree with. And I think number of people that share Nietzsche's position, you know, even though they may not be as vocal, don't use platforms to credit, but I just don't want to be that person. And the other part of it is that there are things that Meech does that I know, you know, there are things that I know he does to show up and help our community. And uh, that comes out of his mouth, when I realize that he's not the total sum of what y'all do on the radio. While, you know, he says our awful things. But I just don't want to be the person that if I can't take it, I'll say hang up. But I'll never say, yeah, call. Now, when he got that he can never call again, or that he will suspend you from the station, yeah, you're gonna have to like advocate, somebody harm. Oh yeah, I'm saying what I do. You know what? To that level. And that's when you start calling people to harm. You just show up, you can't be out. But just him having it here, I'm sorry, y'all have to go through it, but yeah, I just don't have to. Let's take a break. You feel like
Yeah, I do. I just,
they said the audio on YouTube. Go ahead.
All back.
People said log out, please, and log back.
I was going to say, just because a person has and opinion, that don't mean you should hate the person for their opinion. I mean, I'm just saying, because it could turn into, well, I don't like what he's saying. It'll be a whole other situation.
I mean, that's why I said my Charlie Kirk. I just y'all can literally go back and play every one of my shows. If I mention him in his name twice in this, it'll be good because I just already understood. That's why I tell y'all I don't watch Fox News. I don't watch that because I know they be on that shit. I just don't do it. I don't watch it anymore because now they on this. I just can't do it because I understand I only got a finite bandwidth for stupid. I take the spin though. Let me take a break. I'll be right back.
Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, caller. I'm sorry. All right, family. Welcome back to the show. You know, one of the callers, a few calls back, she said, so do you think that this will do something to deal with people and gun violence? No, it's not. If you don't see any action happen after all them little bitty white kids got killed in Sandy Hook. Because, like I said, if it was a whole bunch of little black kids got killed, ain't nobody moving. But all them little bitty white babies got killed in Sandy Hook, and Barack Obama with tears in his eyes. People can't believe they said the tears was fake. No laws change. All we still got is thoughts and prayers, but you can get some new locks for your classroom doors, but you're not messing with our guns. And what did I say? Charlie Kirk said, yeah, you got to have some deaths to help underscore and protect the Second Amendment rights. So every year, that's the sacrifice. That's what we're gonna need to do. No, they're not gonna change. They're not gonna change. And some of it is the gun manufacturers. They contribute heavily financially to campaigns of many of these Republican legislators, but also because the base of voters that they represent, this is their jam. This their thing. Guns, one of the things they were talking about in terms of this shooting, we don't know if the shooter is from Utah, but one of the things that they said, Utah is a state that's got people that's heavily armed. A lot of folks got guns. A lot of folks are skilled shooters. They are hunters. Somebody sent something to me and, just kind of helping put some proximity on the shooting. We had heard that the shot was potentially fired from 200 meters away. That's 218,723 yards, or the equivalent of about 2 football fields or about 2 city blocks. The person was using a scope on a rifle, had an exit plan, practiced and scoped out the setting, had some skills with shooting from a distance. Other things, because the FBI just completed a update. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I saw it rolling in the background. But some of the things that they have said is that they now definitely have footage of the gunman, they believe, moving around on campus, going up a stairwell and onto the roof. Subsequently, they got footage of him fleeing into a neighborhood, which they are searching. They also said they have good video footage of the suspect himself, but have not yet identified him. They aren't releasing that piece yet. They've also said they have recovered the weapon. A high-powered rifle was found in a wooded area, and they also have a footwear impression of the shooter that they are going to send for analysis. So there are some gains, but this person is still out there and on the loose. I clearly have now just made the decision to go with this topic for the remainder of the show. But I will say that, again, a school shooting, to that caller's question about gun violence, a school shooting happened in Colorado yesterday at a high school. A male suspect died of self-inflicted injuries after opening fire and critically injuring 2 students on the grounds of Evergreen High School in Evergreen, Colorado. And this happened around 12:30 p.m. So these shootings were actually taking place around the same time frame. The shooting took place just before 12:30 p.m. on the grounds of the high school, which is about 30 miles southwest of Denver. The suspect's death was confirmed by the sheriff's office. The 2 students were critically injured by the gunfire, taken to the hospital. They both were in, at least they said one of the victims was in stable condition. The other victim was in critical condition. I don't know what the updates are yet on those 2 students. The shooter used a revolver in the attack. And law enforcement never even got to fire a weapon. For people who believe, more bullets, more people with guns stop these shootings. And then you think about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was surrounded by his security detail. And then they said Utah had about 6 officers that were dedicated to that rally, about 3,000. And I thought about 6 officers, 3,000 people in attendance. I don't know how many security Charlie Kirk had, but they were standing right, like close to Charlie Kirk. So, when Donald Trump talks about, we're going to send in the National Guard to stop crime, this stuff is closer. This stuff is hard to control. This person perched up on a rooftop. It's hard to control. A lot of people don't have the resources. And the use of the National Guard is temporary. And in some cases, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a deterrent. Once they leave, I'm back to doing whatever I want to do. So let me go to the phone line, get some more callers in. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, I had to call back because one gentleman was just being so, he set me up to be a Charlie Kirk or whatever.
No, because you don't believe that the rhetoric can do that. So I'm going to give you an opportunity just to say goodbye right now, so I'll have to clown you again. Jermaine, hang that phone up. I'm going to give you an opportunity just to say goodbye, because see, that's what y'all like to do in terms of people that support some of this nonsense. Watch what you say. Da-da-da-da-da. But then you say, hey, you set me up. That's what Charlie Kirk did to people every day. He said stuff that literally could put people in harm's way. That's why I said there's a responsibility that goes with using these platforms, whether as a host or a caller. As a host or a caller. So no, don't cry now. Somehow he set me up. He put me in harm's way. Don't cry now. Because you ain't worried about how Charlie Kirk was setting people up and putting them in harm's way. Spare me. Yeah, it's something else when the ire comes your way. And the disdain and the frustration, push you in the line of fire. So I just want to say this as I get ready to wrap my show this morning. We need to understand that we have reached a different place in what has been acceptable in politics, what is acceptable in interacting with fellow people in this country, not just Americans, not just citizens, because we have non-citizens that are here. What we feel like we can say to people, how we feel like we can handle people, the fact that we have folks that literally, I say 10 years ago, 8 years ago, they would have never spoken this way. When that guy, and I can't remember his name, legislator at one of Barack Obama's, addresses to the Congress or nation, whatever. And the guy stood up and called Barack Obama a lie. Like everybody was like, oh my God. Like, what? You just called the president of the United States on national TV in front of everybody a lie? Like, it was madness. And now Donald Trump degrades and berates and belittles and makes fun of people every day. Jesus. World leaders, his contemporaries, the Republicans that's supposed to be on his team. He talk about everybody like a dog. Everybody can catch his smoke. And Republicans don't have nothing to say. So unless you are willing to be a part of the solution, then don't have nothing to say when people clown your boy. Because if you didn't open your mouth and push back on the disrespect that the leader of your party has shown to journalists, to, like I said, the list is long, then I don't want to hear it today. And yes, somebody died, but I need everybody to think about the hand that they have played in helping us reach a crescendo in this country where we saw a political assassination. And I'm just going to say assumed, because we don't know yet what the motive was for this shooter. We don't know. It's the logical conclusion, but we don't know. That's why there's the difference between Barack Obama and what he said in his statement and what this individual who occupies this White House now has said. This man leads with ignorance. Ignorant moves get ignorant results. Don't never forget that. Reckless behavior gets reckless results. Stupid actions get stupid results. Whatever those results are. But there are a lot of people that are responsible for what leads up to Charlie Kirk potentially being assassinated if it was in fact politically motivated. You don't get to stand back and wring your hands and cry and be like, oh my God, this is awful. And the Democrats need to stop and the Republicans need to stop. Everybody needs to stop. But what I do know is that people only going to let you bully them and push them and talk crazy and endanger them so far. They only going to let you do that so far. Charlie Kirk had a responsibility too. He had a responsibility for what he said, the poison that he put into the environment, and the hateful things that he espoused that put people in harm's way every day, whether that was economic harm, physical harm, academic harm. So that's the show for today. But don't ask me to cry for you when you out here on nonsense. Don't ask me to cry for you. I feel bad for your family and for these children that are getting ready, to be now in a situation without a parent. But the first thing we do in our community when somebody gets shot, we always ask, what happened? What did they do? Who was responsible? We need to answer those questions honestly, not politically correct, but honestly. All right, that's the show. I appreciate everybody that called in. Jay, Debo, I appreciate you, bros. Family, I'll talk to y'all next week. Say something real.